So, Namita, how have you been handling lockdown? Have you been enjoying yourself at home, or what's been happening?
Well, it sounds a bit heartless in these difficult times to say that I've been enjoying myself, but I think one of my friends said I'm doing what I do around the year, which is try to hide from social engagements and people. And I'm writing furiously, and I'm reading, and I'm doing all the homework for all the festivals that we hope to have in the future, and exchanging videos and Facebook chats with my grandchildren. So yeah, I am coping, but sadly, I mean, so many people are not.
But Namita, talking about the introduction, your writer, publisher, have run a translation unit, you've done many different work, and your JLF's festival director. How do you balance all of this? What have you've written sort of 19 books since Paro and between now. So how do you balance the festival stuff and of course the writing stuff and all of the other work that you do?
Well, Sanjoy, I could ask you that question, because I think that if there's anybody who works harder and more busily than me, it's you. And so we will skip the mutual compliments. I think both of us have a disease, and I at least run only on nervous energy. And I'm very fortunate that all the different things I do contribute to each other. And I'd say that the last 13 years with the Jaipur Literature Festival, with JLF, have been absolutely transformational for me. And I have learned so much, full of gratitude. These sound like big words, but meeting so many writers, interacting with so many writers, watching the tremendous administrative skills of the inspirational teamwork people, I've learned a lot. So I've learned to value time and to scrunch in whatever I can, wherever I can. And that is the story of this lockdown.
But I
what
think
about how have you handled the lockdown? Because Sanjoy, for those who don't know, he travels all the time. I mean, if he's not boarding an airline flight every 48 hours, I think he gets some sort of withdrawal symptoms.
No, in fact, I've been enjoying the lockdown, Namita, because one has been in Delhi for the longest stretch ever in one place. It's a record, at least in 10 years or 12 years, it's a record that I've been here for so long. But I've been busier than normal because I start my Zoom conference calls at 10 o'clock in the morning and it runs till roughly 8, 9 o'clock at night. And unlike in the office where you get up and not everything is scheduled. So you get up, you wander around, speak to people, have lunch. Here, Zoom ensures that it's 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, and all the hats that I wear, it's been quite difficult. And as you know, we've had to postpone some of our festivals in February, March, including our festival in Hong Kong, which is India by the Bay, which is hosted at the Asia Society. So, the planning as to where do you move it to? How do you relook at your schedules accordingly? And then all of the policy stuff that's really taking much of my time right now, because we're trying to work with government to push what is it that the industry, that the events and festival and creative industry requires in the months coming forward. Because if you look at the artists, Namita, if they don't perform, they don't eat. And when I said this to somebody in government, they said, oh, all artists are very wealthy. And I said, no, some artists, the great musicians, etc., get a lot of money for their concerts. But the majority, because all 1.2 billion of us in India think that we are artistic, we can write a story, sing a song. Those are people who live off daily wages. So it's really difficult, and we need to do everything that we can do.
So, Sanjoy, 2 questions to you following from this. Do you think that the lockdown has completely changed the way we interact with technology and with each other? And how are you coping on the ground with the wonderful humanitarian work you do with the Salam Balak Trust and things like that? Where it's human to human, it's not, the technology is not.
Pretty much what you said, Namita. I think the world has changed. And when we wake up, meaning when the lockdown finishes across the world will not be the same again. We've gone into tribalism and deglobalization to a certain extent, and you'll see that continuing. And you and I have discussed that a lot. And in fact, the new series that we're launching, that you're programming even as we speak, which is the digital series, and maybe you should say a little bit about it once I finish this. So the world has changed completely, and will it be able to cope with technology? Of course. I think technology is at that fulcrum. Like even you with your Zoom and your iPad or phone, and the first conversation that you came on a couple of days ago, and all beautifully
Yeah,
dressed. And
I
so on and
was
so
between bumbling and fumbling. Why aren't I beautifully dressed today? I've taken off my home clothes for this. But Sanjoy, I would love to share with the audiences here, and to also go discuss with you the initiative we've begun now, which is a Brave New World, the JLF series, one of many on entering a virtual space to communicate literary thoughts and intellectual conversations and grounded responses. How do you, isn't that a part of globalization? Then how does deglobalization come in? Maybe deglobalization at some local levels, in some ways, maybe for fruits, vegetables, produce, ideas. But I think cultures with this may become more global than ever before, because they are
I think art matters, Namita, and we'll see in this lockdown period the profusion of music, of talks, of literature, of thinking, etc. You're seeing the profusion of that. But when it comes to, I mean, consciously, I remember you, me, and Willie talking about the name, and you came up with the Brave New World, and many of my colleagues weren't necessarily fully convinced. But what is it that we were saying? It is going to be a new world. And while city states are locking down, condominiums are locking down, they're not allowing their help in, colonies are locking down, governments are locking down, they've stopped flights, they've stopped people from coming in, they've stopped their own citizens from flying in. And that's the reason why perhaps what we're trying to launch, or what, the Brave New World idea is really, so what's next? Will the world shutter down completely? Do we need to get into the space of mine only for my sake, which is for this 1% of the creamy layer? Because we know that at the end of the day, what does shutdown mean to that person who has 2 square feet to rest himself or herself in? What does that mean? And it's more important today for us to be able to reach out with knowledge and sharing, and be able to connect those dots, pretty much like what we're doing today. We're sitting in 2 different cities in India, recording for a program for Hong Kong. I mean, this is really what this Brave New World is going to be.
But Sanjoy, then we come to the actual sense of physical community, of the energy we give to each other when we speak in person, and the energy we get from our audiences when we have triumphant sessions in Jaipur, in the Literature Festival. What will happen to that? How do you see physical community gatherings accommodating to the new touchiness about touchiness, if you know what I mean?
Pretty much going back to one of the books, your latest book, Jaipur Journals, where
Yes.
which is set in the backdrop of this heaving Jaipur Literature Festival with 500,000 people. And there, your character, even if she's clutching her handbag with her unpublished manuscript, looking on the left, looking on the right, but then engaging with a conversation with a complete stranger. Here we can't do that in the digital format. Yes, of course, you can build a community, yes, and we hope to. But that exchange of energy, which happens, in huge religious comings together, or places like Glastonbury or Burning Man or the Jaipur Literature Festival, very difficult to be able to translate or create. Which is the reason, even in this series, we're saying it's not a festival, it's a series, and we need to be conscious that you can't necessarily take that and say, hey, now we're going to create this online. No, we have to create. Online is a different world. Online is a world of this. It's once removed.
Well, let's see how it goes, because technology has become I mean, I've always, though I'm this writer sitting in my room working away like a isolated fool, but somewhere I've always been in love with technology and struggled to understand it. And I think this is a part of our evolutionary growth as a species. I think we will be more interconnected this whole way beehives are, or so many species and migratory birds, the way they fly together. I think the human race will somewhere come together more now than it had before. But let's ask
one question, Namita, before you ask the question, is that, pretty much what we are seeing today is pretty much what you have been looking at in terms of programming, where that intersection of arts and science and technology. And maybe you can just touch upon that, because I think that's, again, very valuable for this point of time that we're in.
So, Sanjoy, as you know, one of my obsessions was to bring more scientific material, more scientific interaction and conversations to the JLF, because I felt that in India we were, well, not regressing, because I work on myth all the time, and I think myth is one powerful factor to hold people together. But the myths of science, the tropes, the understanding of the planet, I think these are very, very powerful ideas. And I think when we have people like Sir Venki Ramakrishnan or like Marcus de Sanjoy telling us about artificial intelligence, or my favorite Priyambada Natarajan telling us of the mysteries of the cosmos, we move away from the tribal trope to the understanding of ourselves as part of this. So I'm sure that in the segments in the Brave New World, we'll continue to program intensively and to provoke conversations on the climate, on evolution, on science, on all the things that are a part of literature. We are sometimes accused that, but this is not literature. But everything is literature. It's verbal, oral, I'd say even non-verbal language contributes to a different sort of literature. I mean, maybe I'm rambling, but I'm looking forward to this brave new world that is going to accost us, and which I hope we will help people to understand and slide into. Ours will be remembered as that generation that moved from the age of anxiety to the quantum age, I feel.
You're absolutely right. And, just looking into the future as a sort of ending, I think what we will see is my favorite allegory, which is a million fireflies or a million ideas rising up into the night sky and illuminating us all. So I think on that happy note, Namita, great chatting as usual. Hope to catch up. Thank you, Asia Society Hong Kong, for putting this series together. Much love to everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy. This too shall pass, and we will be back to celebrate another happy occasion. Thanks and bye.
And the world.